Welcome back to another great episode of the Adam Talks podcast.
I started out as a wrestler, 10 years Olympic style. So I started when I was about 9 or so.
We said we don't want Bruce Wayne to be old and that's his reason for retiring. He has to have a reason to not be doing this.
I knew I'd always wanted to do it. I never saw myself at a desk job, and anytime I thought of something else, it always brought me back to wrestling.
Man, I don't like fancy pad work. I like realistic pad work. Am I formed? Am I punching correctly? Am I balanced? Like, a lot of them guys will hold pads way outside their faces, and it's just, I don't believe in that type of training, man. Like,
for a couple promotions, I wrestled under a mask, and we don't talk about those days. Because those days were fun and really embarrassing.
It is the first annual Berryville Film Festival. I'm the founder and festival director for it. So it's exciting to bring something to a small town, something brand new.
I think anything you do in wrestling has to have meaning to it. No matter, like, facial expressions, the high-flying moves, all that stuff like that.
All right, guys, we're back here with another great episode and an awesome guest. Voice actor, as well as a guy who has his own YouTube channel, My Review, the man himself, Aaron Fischer. How's it going, man?
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Hey, not a problem, man. I'm a big fan of yours. I've watched a lot of your videos, man. How did you get into voice acting before we get into the review channel and VC and stuff?
Well, voice acting was kind of a long journey. It would take too long to even get into all of it, but the basic part of it is I've always had people ever since junior high and my voice changed. People tell me that I should be using my voice. And I never gave it much credence, but once I started having kids, I started reading to my kids and quickly realized I couldn't just read the words that were on the page. So I started doing a bunch of character voices like Mickey Mouse and Optimus Prime and a bunch of other characters. And my kids ended up loving it. Now, I didn't think much of it. But some of my friends at the time heard me and said, you need to get paid to do that. And I thought that was ridiculous. I said, that would be awesome, but that didn't seem like real life.
Yeah.
So I was a Nabisco salesman at that stage, and I had just a bunch of people just start making comments about my voice. I'd be on the aisle talking to a manager. People would come from miles over and say, oh my gosh, we heard your voice. Do you do anything on the radio? I'd be getting voicemail messages. You should be announcing baseball games. And that's when I said, okay, maybe I need to look at getting into voiceover. So 13 and a half years ago, well, actually 14 years ago this month, I found a course through a school called Voices for All. It was an intro class. So if anybody's interested in learning about voiceovers or taking the first step and getting into the industry, that's where I would go. Their course changed my life. I actually had signed up for their intro class, ended up getting sick for 3 months, almost lost our house, almost lost everything. I took the last bit of money I had to my name and actually put it into the training at Voices for All. And then 3 short years later, I was able to quit my 20-year job as a Nabisco salesman to be a voice actor full time. So that's all she wrote. And I've been loving every minute of it. Leaving that job at Nabisco was quite a, yeah. It was good.
Man,
yeah.
I couldn't imagine being able to do anything like that full time, let alone doing the podcast thing like I'm doing, being able to do it and bring in money for myself. That's just a wild concept to me, betting on yourself, going all in and betting on yourself and saying, I know I'm good enough to do this. Was it a difficult decision to be able to do that?
Not getting into voiceovers, no, because my wife and I, we always knew that it was a path I should be taking. But, being at Nabisco at that stage, they were basically looking at getting rid of most people who had been there for 10 years or longer. And I'd been there. Oh, wow. And I left a little earlier than I wanted to, but I wasn't going to let them fire me. I had a couple individuals within the company that weren't even my boss trying to find ways to get me fired. And I just got to the point where I'm like, I'm just not dealing with this anymore. I remember sitting in a Safeway store, writing up an email to my entire team, telling them what was going on. And they even tried to discredit me when I left, and everything I said had been true. And I just left it behind and I never looked back. And so the last 10 years, I will tell you, have gone by. It's been 10 and a half years, and the last 10 and a half years have gone by super fast. Super fast. But it's given me the ability to spend, more time doing the things that I love, like watching movies, TV shows, especially spending time with my family. I got to go do a lot of things I was not able to do when I had my job at Nabisco. So it was a complete change. And, I wish I would have started my YouTube channel a lot sooner than I did. But, my YouTube channel started almost 4 years ago. Or is it 3 years? I think it's 3 years. And when I started that channel, I met with a guy who was going to help me kind of get things up and running. And originally my channel was going to be Why I Hate WB and DC. And this was right before they announced Zack Snyder's Justice League, because I just got tired, learning about how they had done David Ayer dirty and how they had done what they had done to Zack Snyder with Batman versus Superman, and then again with Justice League. It was like, just let the filmmakers make their stuff. And we wouldn't have been in the position we're in today had they released the correct versions of those films. And so I was irritated and wanted to start a channel, because there's a documentary on YouTube talking about Superman 2 and everything that Warner Brothers had done to Richard Donner. And, Warner Brothers has this record of doing this to filmmakers going back 40 years. And so I was ready to start that channel, and then they announced Zack Snyder's Justice League, and I was like, well, I can't do that anymore. And I thought we had turned a corner, but come to find out, there was no turning a corner. They were determined to bury it no matter what happened. So
there is no movie like Zack Snyder's Justice League, man. That movie is up there. I think it's one of the best superhero movies I've ever seen, I absolutely loved it. I can't believe I saw that movie on Max whenever it first came out, and I was like, what the hell, man? How did they butcher it down to what it was with the Justice cut? You know what I mean? The Justice League movie. How did they butcher it like that? And take away all the originality that Zack had brought to it and all the story elements that Zack had brought to it, and say, you know what? Let's make it Marvel. Let's do that, How do you think that even happened? Why would a studio even do that?
It just goes back to who they are. But, when I saw Zack Snyder's Justice League, the first time I realized something was wrong, and it's important to know I wasn't in Zack Snyder's camp entirely. At the time, I really enjoyed Man of Steel, but I thought the end was a little over bloated. And then I saw Batman versus Superman at the theaters, and, it was disjointed, but I still really liked it. But then I saw the extended version. I was like, oh, my gosh. And Batman versus Superman is now my all-time favorite superhero film, the extended version. I think it's amazing. And for I know people who haven't watched it because they saw the original cut. No, take the time to watch the extended version. It makes a massive difference. And then they announced Zack Snyder's Justice League, and I was like, well, first of all, I realized there was a problem with Justice League when they released the Blu-ray. And they had 2 cut scenes on the Blu-ray. And it's Superman, landing there in the Batcave, going to speak to Alfred. And they had Hans Zimmer's music, and I'm like, okay. That's when I said, we got screwed.
Yeah.
We got screwed. And then when they announced Zack Snyder's Justice League, even then I was like, what if it comes out and it's not good? What if it comes out and it's not good? I still wasn't there, right? And I'm like, what if it isn't good? And then it got released. I watched it twice the day it got released. I think I watched it 3 times that weekend. And after that first viewing, I have a theater that I built, years ago, and I had my dad, some friends were over. We did this big showing here, and when it got done, I just sat there with a huge smile on my face. When Barry Allen is running down the street at the very end of that movie, he was just like, he was totally accepting what had happened. That's how I felt after watching the film. It was awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, dude, 4 hours of awesome stuff. 4 hours of stuff that I was like, if we would have gotten this the first time around, I know he had a personal tragedy in his life and everything, and that's why he had to step away, but if we would have been able to get even a piece of what we got in the Snyder cut, the Snyder cut, look at me saying that, but Zack Snyder's Justice League, if we would have gotten even just a piece of that in the Justice League version, man, it would have changed everything, I think. Gotten a half of it, a third of it, a fourth of it, whatever, it would have changed a lot of things, I think, back in that time. But looking forward, 2021, that thing came out. And like you, I sat and I watched it probably 2-3 times within the first 2 days it was on Max. I was like, yes, I'm going to watch it again. And I had tears coming down my eyes whenever Barry had to reverse time, running out of my eyes whenever Barry had to reverse time, man. I was just like, this is beautiful. He's saving everyone because the world ended. The Unity was formed and the world was just getting terraformed or whatever the hell it was called. But it was like, no! Oh, and then all of a sudden he said, wait! And he went right back. I was like, oh, shoot, man. And then after that, go ahead.
I was just going to say, in the theatrical version, they didn't have him do anything.
They didn't have Cyborg doing anything either.
At the end was a complete change.
Yeah, I agree, man. And Cyborg didn't have anything in the first movie, in the original one either, the theatrical. Cyborg didn't do hardly anything. I think at the end he was like, Superman! And that was it. That was all Cyborg did throughout the whole thing, and he may have located where Steppenwolf was or something. But apart from that, we didn't get to see Cyborg and get to see Victor and his dad bonding and finding a way to get over their disagreements and stuff. We didn't get to see that amazing story, We didn't get to see the story of Barry, like, finding a way to become a hero by the very end of it that I think they trashed in the Flash movie, honestly. I think in the Flash movie, I think they did him way dirty. I'm going to jump to the Flash movie real quick because I feel like, what kind of thing was that, The Dark Flash? What is that, man? You're like not even building the villain up. By the very end, you see this villain, and you're like, where has he been the whole time? You know what I mean? For me, that's what it was like. Where has he been? Why is this guy the bad guy whenever we see him for 5 seconds of the whole dang thing, You see him for a teeny bit of time, and then way later you see him whenever he dies or whatever it is. It didn't make any sense. The whole story to me didn't make any sense. What was your thoughts on The Flash?
The Flash, for me, I got to see it early. And we were told that the version that we were seeing was not the final version, that they still had to fix some of the effects, and that we needed to go back to really experience the movie the way it's supposed to be seen. And so I did. I thought the film, first of all, when I went and saw it with my wife, the full version, it was no different at all from the version we saw weeks earlier. They didn't fix anything. And I felt duped. I felt like we were lied to. And on top of that, the movie for me was a comedy. Like that storyline itself is not a funny story.
No.
It was meant to be taken seriously. That storyline should have been taken seriously, and it was mostly a comedy. And it just did not work for me. And then at the end, they try to bring in the emotion, but it's too late. You need to have it throughout the film. You need to build up to it, and they didn't build up to it. So I felt really duped by that film. I felt cheated. I felt like the studio lied, that they had false advertising. And that's when I kind of floated the idea that it's like time to hold these studios accountable for their advertisements and how they interact with the public and what they tell people, because they lied about an amazing post-credit scene. We were told by the director's sister that there was going to be a very special post-credit scene. That didn't happen. We were told things were going to change. It didn't happen. The only thing that was different in the theatrical version was the credits, that they actually had credits. We didn't see credits in the original. There were no post-credit scene. That was the only thing that changed. And that was a terrible post-credit scene. I don't want to see a drunk Aquaman falling into a puddle of water on the road. It's disrespectful to the character.
Yeah. The Flashpoint Paradox story, like you said, it's a super serious story. I mean, it deals with not only what would happen if Barry saved his mom and whatnot. It's not only that, but it's also, you get to see what happens if Bruce Wayne wasn't around. He died instead of his parents. You get to see, Flashpoint Batman with guns and stuff and all these different villains. You know, I think Victor's still Cyborg, but he's like more militant, I think, if I'm right. They did kind of pay homage to that, Superman with Supergirl being locked away like Superman was in it and looking kind of frail and everything. But then she came out and immediately was like, I'm badass. I'm going to kick everybody's ass on top of that, whatever the hell they held her in. It didn't make sense. And then whenever he thought he was back to his normal timeline, we get George Clooney with his smug face, and nobody liked George Clooney as Batman. So why the hell do you bring him back? What is that? I mean,
yeah, it was a mind-boggling cameo.
Who wants, hello, Freeze, I'm Batman. Who wants that guy back? You know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense. And I guess that's kind of what we're getting. That's kind of, I don't know if, what do you think? Do you think that's what we can expect with the DCU moving forward under James Gunn and Peter Safran?
I've been very vocal about that on my channel. I just don't see James Gunn as the guy to be in charge of DC. If you look at every project he's ever done, they're all comedy. He doesn't know how to be serious. He doesn't know how to take those characters seriously. And he even made comments shortly before coming on as the head CEO that he finds superheroes to be the most ridiculous thing ever. He loves them, but he finds them to be the most ridiculous thing ever because you could never see someone like Batman walking down the street and not laugh, right? So I don't think he's going to take these characters seriously. I hope Superman is good, but I haven't seen anything. In fact, everything for the production looks super cheap. And so I don't see him fixing this. I really think Superman's going to be another Blue Beetle, the Flash situation where they end up losing money. I would like to be proven wrong. I would like for it to be good, but it can't just be a mediocre hit. And the thing people have to realize is Batman has always been DC's #1 seller. You had the Batman film with Pattinson, you know, the Batman, Matt Reeves film, that didn't even make $800 million, you know? You think Superman's going to make that kind of money? It's not. It's just not.
I mean,
I don't see that universe being taken seriously.
Well, I mean, you're introducing, I believe you kind of voiced on your channel, like I said at the beginning, I'm a big fan of your channel, man. And I think you voiced it a couple different times, man. There's too many heroes in the Superman movie to begin with. You're overcrowding a Superman movie. He should be the centerpiece. Even if it's not an origin story, he should be the centerpiece. You shouldn't have all this other stuff. I could see maybe a mention of another hero or like something about Gotham if you wanted to bring Batman into it or something like that, but not actually bringing them in at whatever. This is supposed to be your universe-defining first big project. You got Creature Commandos, lewd, crude, Suicide Squad-esque kind of thing that's coming around whenever the heck it is. But you got that coming around. But as far as big productions, Superman has to nail it on its first go. If it doesn't, like you said, they're going to be sunk in the water, man. They're going to be dead on arrival, you know what I mean? And I don't know. I don't have a problem with a lot of James Gunn stuff myself, but I don't know, like you said, if he's right for running this ship, you know, because DC's always put themselves different. I'm more of a DC than a Marvel guy. DC's always kind of put themselves in a different place, more serious, more heavy stories, you know, more realistic, stylized stuff. And Zack Snyder did a great job with that, making this world feel real, feel like you could see it happening going down the street or whatever. You can see this stuff happening. You can see Henry Cavill as Clark Kent walking down the street and not think twice about it because he looks like a normal Joe, you know? He doesn't look cartoony. He doesn't look like a overly colorful image of whatever, you know. And that's what DC did even before Snyder to separate themselves from Iron Man, from Spider-Man, and all of these other awesome Marvel products. Marvel was the happy, lighter side of things, with the exception of a couple of things. But DC's always been realistic, gritty, dirty. And I think James Gunn, like you said, isn't necessarily the right choice because he's going to bring all of the goofy, childish shit into the mix. And that's not what DC fans want most of the time, in my opinion. You know, you're a DC fan, you want something different than Marvel. You don't want the same thing because what's the difference in watching one than the other at that point? What are you going to get that's any different apart from characters? You know, it doesn't. I mean,
that's what they're headed towards. I mean, with all the weird offshoot characters that Gunn wants to do, there are some DC fans who are like, the more the merrier, bring it on. That's what DC really is. But you can't do that without the foundation first. Like, you got to have your core characters, and they have to be taken seriously if you're going to build upon that universe. And that's not what James Gunn. I mean, he's starting with Creature Commandos, which barely anybody's ever heard of. And then
I haven't heard of it.
Yeah, and I hadn't heard of it until he had brought it up. And then you got Man of Steel, and you're already bringing in Guy Gardner without even establishing the Green Lanterns yet. And so they're doing things backwards. It's just backwards. So I just don't know. I just don't have a whole lot of hope. Nothing about what they've done so far is telling me that this is going to be a success. It's just the opposite.
Yeah, man, I can definitely agree on that with you. It's very concerning. You know, that's what I think. And the other thing that's concerning for me is you say the stuff that happened before Blue Beetle, I guess. Is Blue Beetle the first? I don't know. I don't understand because I think he said it at one point it was the first, or he is going to be in this new DCU. But that was part of the DCEU, technically, right? But then Peacemaker was there in the old DCEU with Aquaman, Jason Momoa, and all this. And then it's going to be in this new stuff, the second season, and Joel Kinnaman's coming back to play Rick Flag Jr., and Frank Grillo is going to be not Frank Castle, that's Punisher. Joe Grillo is going to be freaking
Flag Senior.
Yeah, Rick Flag Sr. Thank you. My brain farted for a half second. But you know, you got very, very confusing stuff, and I don't really understand it. Can you make heads or tails of any of this stuff past the present with the James Gunn stuff? Because I can't.
No, that's the thing is none of it makes any sense. You know, first he said the Flash was what was going to reset everything, but they never established that, and it certainly didn't reset anything. It's just the Flash is not right in his universe. You had James Gunn come out and say that the first season is not canon of Peacemaker anymore, but then he says it takes place right after the events of season 1. Like you said, he had talked about Blue Beetle being in the DCU, but that was like the worst performing DC film of all of them. Yet that character's coming back, and the Suicide Squad was the second worst performing DC movie. So you have the two worst projects in the DCEU that are now part of the DCU. None of that makes any logical sense in any other business. You're not going to take the worst aspects of your business and build a new business off of it. That's not how things work. And so I just don't see that the math doesn't add up. The math does not add up.
The math ain't mathin' for you. I get that, man. So what is the hope for you? Is for DC, that is. Before I move over to something a little bit different than that, what is the hope for you? Is it to get DC to move to like Universal, get bought by Universal or Prime or Netflix or something like that? Because I did watch a video earlier today, actually, of yours where you were talking about the possibility of the David Ayer Suicide Squad and Zack Snyder's universe possibly being bought by Netflix. I think that was a couple weeks back you did that video. But do you think that's feasible and actually going to happen?
It is feasible. I do see it as a possibility, but I think they're going to wait. If anything happens, they're going to wait until after Superman gets released. They want to see how it performs. But Warner Brothers needs money. Their company is not viable. And I still haven't done my video on how they're going to be sold. I don't know if I'm going to get to it, but they are going to end up breaking up at some point. This was already predetermined before they even took over Warner Brothers to begin with. I don't think David Zaslav was in it for the long run. He was doing it as a placeholder basically to get rid of everything later on. And they're building the DCU like it's something they want to help to shop it around. I don't know who's going to want to buy the DCU over the DCEU. Like, that doesn't make sense to me at all. I think people are going to feel duped when they go see Superman. When they were told that Henry Cavill was back with Black Adam, they're going to be like, who's this guy? Why is Henry Cavill not coming back? What happened to the last guy? And they're going to say this all looks so cheap, right? So I don't see... I do think it's viable for them to sell it, though, because what people don't realize is Zack Snyder's Justice League, he did that on purpose. It is specifically Zack Snyder's Justice League. They could easily carry on that version of the character somewhere else. They could license out that version of those characters somewhere else and still continue with the DCU on its own. But James Gunn doesn't like other people to play in the sandbox. That's very clear with the cancellations he's had since he's taken over of certain projects, which is mind-boggling when he came in and talked about how important the multiverse is, but they don't really want to use the multiverse. He wants his universe and nothing else.
Man, I think Zack Snyder was doing something very revolutionary that we hadn't seen in movies. Yeah. Not only was it super realistic, like I was saying, but it felt like if you were to bring the DCEU, the animated universe that they had a little while back with like Justice League War and all of those, if you were to bring that into live action, that's to me what it felt like. It was very hard hitting, very impactful, it was just in your face, and it wasn't afraid to not pull punches with anything. It was go, 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 balls to the walls, And from the moment I saw the Ultimate Edition of Batman vs. Superman, I said, I've got to get all of these that come out in the future. I have to see Aquaman. I have to see Wonder Woman. I have to see, whenever they announced Wonder Woman 84, I had to watch it, even though in the end it was not great, Birds of Prey I even watched, and it was just really bad. It was not good at all. It was horrible. I don't know what they were trying to do with that movie, but there you go. I had to watch all of them because this universe that he had started working on, starting to build, even the giant slate that he had whenever Man of Steel and Batman vs. Superman finally came out, way back when, he had a giant slate with like Green Lantern movies, with the Cyborg movie, with like a Batman movie with Ben Affleck playing Batman, and he was going to direct it with Deathstroke in it. Are you kidding me? I wanted to see that so bad, and then I heard, well, he's not going to do it. He has a lot on his plate, whatever it was. Okay, cool, I guess. But he's still going to play in the movie, right? No, that movie's just not happening anymore. What the hell? Come on, man. You're taking away one of the very best Batman I've ever seen in his standalone movie with Joe Manganiello playing an awesome-looking Deathstroke, man. And just certain things we've missed out on. I would love to see the Ayer cut of Suicide Squad, honestly. That movie sounds like it is so much better than what we got. I mean, if
even the movie we got was better than the Suicide Squad, so even the original Suicide Squad that was released in theaters is better than James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. And so to think that it could be even better is just freaking awesome. And David Ayer is a great director. And so,
oh my God,
we got cheated. He got done dirty by the studio. There's no question. I even did a post on Twitter about this today, that he got done dirty by the studio. He was bent over, and it's a shame. I really hope we get to see that film one day. I don't think I've ever heard it described that way. He got bent over. My God, yes, he got done dirty for sure. Dadgum, man. He did. Yeah. So whenever you're switching subjects a little bit, have you
just done like voiceover, or have you done voice acting as well, playing different characters or parts in like audio dramas or audiobooks or anything like that?
Absolutely. I mean, that's what voiceover is. Voiceover is voice acting. There's three different ways. You're considered a voiceover artist, a voice actor, or a voice talent. So it's all three of those. So everything I do is acting. I am considered a professional actor. And so, yes, I've done books. I've done stuff for movies. I've done stuff for video games. I've done stuff for TV shows. I've been a part of, in the 13 years I've been doing what I do, I have worked on over 3,500 different projects.
Whoa.
So, yeah. Everything from feature films all the way down to voicemail messages. I have done over 3,500 different projects over the last 13 and a half years. Yeah.
Have you got to work on like any superhero projects? Because I know you're a DC fan.
Yes.
Figure out after that. You got to work on superhero projects.
My second paid job was actually playing Batman for a Fandango promotion.
What?
Yeah, for a Fandango promotion. So, yeah, I actually got to play Batman. And at one point, I was actually playing Barry Allen for a radio drama. It was going to be an internet drama, but it got shut down by Warner Brothers as soon as they announced that they were doing the Flash TV show on the CW.
Oh, wow.
I still have all the recordings for that. I even have clips that the person who was putting it all together had sent to me, but then he got a cease and desist order from Warner Brothers because they were coming out with the Flash TV show. Had they not done the Flash TV show, he would have been able to release it because he wasn't doing it for money. So, yeah, I have done, and I feel like there's more, and I can't think of it off the top of my head. I actually played Tony Stark also for a motion comic.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a couple of things that I've worked on, superhero wise. So yeah.
Not trying to fanboy out or nerd out, man, but you've done a lot of freaking cool stuff, dude.
Yeah, there's been some fun things that I've done. I've thoroughly enjoyed what I've done over the last 13 years. It's been a fun journey. It certainly has.
Man, what are some tips you could give someone like me who is wanting to do voice acting or something like that? You said earlier a website. Apart from that, what are some tips? Because I like writing my own audio dramas and getting local actors and stuff to play parts. I'm working on getting one so I can release mine in January, my first full cast audio drama called Grief. It's about a man whose wife died and he's going through the stages of grief, and it shows him and a couple people in his life over the span of about a year or something like that after his wife passes away. So how would I go about giving advice, or what advice could you give me as a young voice actor in this game? What advice would you give to me? Or anybody, not just me. I'm talking to you guys too.
Oh yeah. So the best advice I would give someone if they want to get into the industry or they really want to look at it is to take that intro class through Voices for All, because it does discuss everything that's involved in becoming a voice actor and what you'll end up having to do to make that a reality. And that is the first step. And it runs through everything that you would need to do to make that a reality. So their course changed my life. And so I highly recommend anybody really looking at getting into this industry and wanting to make it a reality that you check out that intro class through that website, because it's a 1.5 hour course where you would read some scripts and you would learn what the industry is really like and what it takes to make that a reality, to become an actual voice actor. So outside of those things, there's not really a whole lot of advice to give, because there are definitely steps you have to take to become a voice actor. You can definitely play on your own and do things on the side, but it won't make a career, unfortunately, because there are definitely some realistic steps you need to take if you want to make it something real.
Okay. Man, like, I really appreciate you coming on the show, dude. Like I said, I've watched probably about a year or more now on my review channel. Oh, dude, I love watching your stuff. I subscribe to it. I'm not a paying subscriber. I don't make the kind of money where I could do that, but I've kept up with the videos as much as I can. Whenever I see you put an update on there, I'm like, well, gotta watch a DC update, man. And it always starts the same. All right, everybody. It's time for another DC update. Or I'm back for another DC update. Yeah. I'm like, right on. Let's check it out. What you got to say this time, Aaron?
Yeah, so I am working on some branding right now, and my banner on my YouTube channel is going to say, I am back.
Nice.
So
nice.
That's going to be kind of the tagline there. So that's going to be on the banner. Yep.
Have you ever thought of, now it's just a weird question that came up to me several times because I like listening to Spotify and different things like that. And I know some people do this. Have you ever thought of taking the audio from your reviews or your updates and putting them on like a Spotify channel or anything like that? People could listen to it that way as well.
I've thought about doing that in the past, but I actually had a podcast with a friend of mine. It didn't go all that well, but I think our channel is still up on YouTube. It's called Surprise, We Both Love Movies. And we had done the podcast side of it, but you actually have to pay for the space. And with the amount of updates that I do, like I would use that space up and would have to pay even more money every month. And you don't really make money off of podcasts until you get, like you have to have a huge following and it has to, like it really has to be something special. And so I haven't looked at that side of it, although I have thought about doing maybe an hour-long show a week, just talking about movies and TV shows in general and just having people send me questions and run through stuff. I have thought about that, but I haven't made a decision on whether I want to go that route again or not.
Without spoiling anything for me, because I've seen that you have seen it, what were your thoughts on Deadpool and Wolverine?
I thoroughly enjoyed that movie. I went with my best friend out here where I live, and we both loved it. Like, it was my favorite Marvel film since Captain America Winter Soldier. Like, I really enjoyed that movie. And I really liked the first Deadpool. The second one, I enjoyed it for what it was. But the third one, wow. Like, yeah, I really dug it. It was hilarious. And I've actually had some people criticize me. They're like, it has the same potty humor in it that you don't like out of James Gunn stuff. And I'm like, I have to tell those people it's all about comprehension. Do you not understand what Deadpool is? Do you not understand what Superman is? Or do you not understand what Batman is? They are completely different properties. They are treated completely in a different fashion. There is a right time and a right place for certain things. And Deadpool, they nailed it. And that movie is a prime example of when you cater to your audience. You brought Jackman back to play Wolverine. Like, that is huge. And I said this in an update the other day. If you brought Henry Cavill back, if you were able to bring Henry Cavill back and Ben Affleck for a world's finest movie, you've got a $1 billion film, no question about it. That would
easily
flock to. No matter what anybody says, people will come in and say Batman versus Superman had this massive drop off after the first week. But yeah, it still made, even to today's money, it made over $1 billion. That's not something to scoff at, because 95% of superhero films don't make that kind of money. So it still made that kind of money, and people wanted to go see these characters on screen. The studio just committed suicide by releasing a butchered version of the film rather than giving us the full version. Put that extra half an hour in there. People will not care about the length. You look at the success of Titanic and of Avatar. People don't care about the run times if you are giving them a good movie. And the studio shot themselves in the foot by not releasing the right version. So Wolverine, the Deadpool and Wolverine movie is awesome, and it shows you that anything is possible. Like, it is still a possibility.
Man, me and my wife have been wanting to go and see that since we've started seeing the trailers first come out. We've been like, we're going to see that. We're going to go to see that. And then it came out theaters. We're like, we're not going and seeing that opening week because it'll be too full. Nope. We're going to wait for a little bit and then we're going to go. You know, that way the theaters are a little less full, you know. So, we're excited about that.
Yeah. $500 million in one weekend. $500 million.
Holy cow.
One
Whoa.
weekend. Yeah. $500
Whoa.
By now I'm guessing by now it's probably around the 6 to 650 mark, and I'm betting by the end of next weekend, this coming weekend, it will probably break $1 billion.
Whoa. Holy cow, man.
It's crazy.
Another movie,
Yeah,
another people, what the heck was that? Another movie that my wife really wants to see is Twisters. Have you had the chance to see that?
Yeah, I went and saw that with my family. We all enjoyed it. I thought it was a worthy follow of the original. I didn't like it quite as much as the original, but I mean, they've definitely updated the effects, and the story is very similar to the original, but it was still very enjoyable. I mean, if you like Twister, you'll like Twisters. There's no question about it. It is definitely worth going to see. It is.
Right on, man. Definitely going to have to go there on a date night. Either one of those movies on a date night with my wife. Oh, man. Shoot, man. I appreciate the hell out of you coming on. I know you kind of, you said you've got a little part of time sketched out for the show to come on here, and I really appreciate you doing that for me, man. I appreciate you notching out a small amount of time for me because I know you're a super busy guy, got a bunch of stuff going on. So thank you very much for that.
And everything else, it's been crazy. So, yeah.
Is your dog doing all right?
She's doing a lot better. She had they believe it's a spinal stroke until we can get the MRI. We won't know for sure, but she had a spinal stroke a week and a half ago and lost use of her entire hind end. As of today, she is now up and around. She almost looks like she is walking normal. She's able to get up and down the stairs. She can't jump yet, but she does have stability in that leg, but it still drags behind her. Like, I can't do what I used to throw her balls every day, and she would do like crazy jumps in the air, twists, turns, all kinds of stuff. And I can't do that yet. But what I am doing is I'm like rolling a ball 10 feet in front of her and she'll run after it. And that leg does drag a little bit. Like, it's not, her left leg is still not functioning properly. But the good news is every day she's a little bit better and a little bit better. But it's been a life change. Like, the first week was very rough. I really feel for families that have special needs, kids and stuff, because it encompasses your entire life. I will tell you that, just even with our dog. We've got rugs all over. We have wood and tile downstairs, so we had to put out rugs everywhere so she can actually get traction to get up, because that leg does not have the strength to get up on its own. And so we had to do that all over the house. I have one strip outside here, outside my studio too, so that she can actually get in and out of here. So it was a change, but she is doing a lot better now. But we won't know until we get the MRI. It's going to tell us everything. So
that's awesome to hear, man. I have two little puppies that are like just 2 months old each. So I would be heartbroken if anything happened to them and it wasn't something that I could have helped or anything, So I'm really happy to hear that your dog is doing a lot better. They're like family members, and you don't want anything to happen to them. So, I mean,
nope.
Definitely good to hear that, man. So normally at the end of the show, I don't know how much time. If you have more time, I'll talk more with you. But if you don't, if you're kind of cut short, then I will. We'll go right into what I usually do at the end of the show.
Yeah, I'll be able to stick around for a few more minutes.
Oh, cool, man! Heck yeah! Right on. Were you able to? Did you attend Comic-Con by chance? San Diego Comic-Con?
No, I've never gone to a Comic-Con. I'm not the type to dress up or anything, and I've gone to our Comic-Con here in Arizona several times. Okay, but I had a bad experience with our Comic-Con one year, and I will never go back because of it.
Okay.
I've thought about going to San Diego, but there are rumors, and I don't know if this is true, that they may be moving to Las Vegas. And if that's the case, I might start going, because Las Vegas is it's a 2-hour shorter trip to go to Las Vegas for us than it is to go to the San Diego Comic-Con. So if they move there, I may start making the trip.
So I saw a video that you did, and I wanted to touch on this just for a second before I ask the questions I was going to ask. Saw a video that you did earlier. James Gunn, what the hell is he doing by not going to Comic-Con, for one?
Yeah.
And the second thing is they brought back an old logo instead of making a brand new logo for the new regime. What the hell is that? I mean, it's lazy. That's what it is. It's lazy
and cheap. Just like everything so far with the production. I did talk about why I thought they used the logo the other day. It's a nostalgic thing for people my age. Like, I grew up with that logo on my comics. I have a bunch of comics with that logo on it. So it is very recognizable, but in a video I posted yesterday, it is a direct ripoff of somebody who was doing a fan project on YouTube. Like, it's directly ripped off of it. And not even resembles it. It is even the font and everything is a direct ripoff of that. And with him not showing up, I'm sorry, you're trying to start a brand new universe. And that movie is uber important. They've been working on the special effects. Well, some people are going to get on me for that. The CGI on it, the post work on it, as they film it. So they've already been working on it to make sure they're saying they're doing that to make sure it is fully polished when it gets released an entire year from now. Okay? And you're telling me they couldn't have done something at the Comic-Con? No. Every other superhero, you look at the Fantastic Four. That movie comes out the same time, and they already had a teaser for it at the Comic-Con. They had the actors there. They got people excited, and James Gunn couldn't even show up. He couldn't even show up. You're the head of DC Studios, and you couldn't show up to the #1 event for comic fans. That is unacceptable. Unacceptable. No matter what else I've said about James Gunn, to me that was a disgusting move. It just shows you that he doesn't care. He doesn't care. And then Safran has to release a statement about it. Not James Gunn, Peter Safran. It's just the whole thing reeks of just being cheap. Cheap.
Man, Zack Snyder, before I go to ask the question I was going to ask, Zack Snyder came out, I think it was 2015, 2014, something like that, right before Batman versus Superman came out. And they hadn't even done a ton, I don't think they had done a ton of filming at that time, but even he showed a 30-second little bitty clip of Batman standing walking on the roof. He turns the bat signal on and he looks up and it's raining and Superman in the middle of the bat symbol up in the sky and his eyes are glowing. And I was just like, oh my God. But that 30-second thing, James Gunn could have done something to that effect and it would have meant something to the DC fans, but he didn't show up. He didn't come there. Nope. And that really shows a lot, like you said, he could care less about what's going on with everything. I think he's overbooked himself as far as what he's trying to do with this. Creature Commandos, Superman, Supergirl, trying to find Brave and the Bold, cast Brave and the Bold, which maybe it's going to be Robert Pattinson coming over and merging universes like you said in the video, one of your videos. Maybe it's not. I don't know. I mean, I think speculatively that would be really cool, but at the same time, I wouldn't mind seeing somebody like, I don't know, Jensen Ackles playing Batman. That would be freaking awesome, because he could do a kick-ass job as Batman. We've heard him in the, in the Crisis cartoons being the voice of Batman. He's really good. The question I was going to ask is what you thought about what you thought about the Fantastic Four reveal at Comic-Con and Robert Downey Jr. coming in to play Doctor Doom for Secret Wars and Avengers Doomsday.
So I think it's cool that they revealed what they did for Fantastic Four. I mean, it's a good way to get people excited. I think they're actually finally taking that seriously. And I do like the fact that they got a great composer. And so everything's hitting on all cylinders. And then for Robert Downey Jr. to come back, that would be like bringing Henry Cavill back, except he's not coming back as Iron Man, which would be huge. He's coming back as Doctor Doom, which raises the question of, is he playing a variant of, Iron Man, Tony Stark, or not? So I'm not excited about that, but I'm not ready to write it off. Like, I want more details. But it's clear that they brought him back. That video is now like one of the most watched videos ever from the Comic-Con. And so it's got people talking. There's no question about it, and that's good press. DC didn't do anything like that. There is nothing that DC did that people are talking about. Now, I am personally looking forward to the comics coming up. Like, I am really liking what they have planned coming in the next couple of months, going into early next year. But I'm not excited about I'm not excited about Peacemaker Season 2. I'm not excited about Creature Commandos. Those things to me just do not appeal to me in any way, shape, or form.
Okay. You talked about the comics. Is that the one where Batman's like gigantic and he's not rich?
Yeah, they're doing an alternate universe. It's kind of the yin and yang of the DC universe, and this other universe is going to be darker and grittier. And so that's the All In initiative, which does start up here, I think, later this month. So, if you're a comic fan, I mean, now's the time to jump on board. If you've thought about getting comics, I could tell you Jim Lee is involved. You've got Scott Snyder involved. There are some big names that are involved with this project, and they're actually bringing the Justice League back finally for another run in comics. They've been gone for 2 years. And so there's a lot of good stuff to be looking forward to if you are a DC fan in comics. The movies, on the other hand, no. No.
Heavy hitters in the comic book game. Man, I'm going to say it for the third time. Man, I appreciate you coming on here. I've had an awesome time talking to you, man. I've had a great time talking to you on here and getting to. Oh, I'm glad you were able to make it too, man. I usually end the show with gratefulness, because I'm a super grateful guy. I'm very grateful for a lot of different things. So the way this works normally is I will say 3 things I'm grateful for, and I'll let my guests say 3 things they're grateful for. For me, this stuff doesn't change that often or at all. I'm very grateful for my support system. First off, my family, my wife, my kids, my friends, anybody who supported me doing, whether it's podcasting, whether it's writing music, whether it's making short films, audio dramas, whether it's being a professional wrestler, no matter what it is. I wouldn't be doing any of it without my support system. So I'm super grateful for them being there for me and having my back. Number two, you guys, because let's face it, man, you didn't have to come on the show. I'm just some dude that likes talking to people. So my guests are super important to me. I'm very grateful for them whenever they choose to come on, because they don't have to, it means a lot to me that you would even choose to come on, or any of my other guests. But, definitely my guests I'm very grateful for them. And the third thing is kind of a twofer, the good Lord above and my health, because without God, everything is impossible. And with him, nothing is impossible. And also my health, because not only is it physical, but it's mental, because if I didn't have the confidence to go out and talk to people, or if I didn't have the ability and I was crippled with anxiety or crippled with fear, I couldn't do this, for one, but I also couldn't do anything else that I love. If I didn't have physical health, I couldn't go to work, couldn't make money. I couldn't live my dream that I had since I was 7 by being a professional wrestler, like I have been doing since 2022. I'm very grateful for my health, and I'm very grateful for having God in my life. So, Aaron, what are 3 things that you are grateful for in this very moment?
So right off, I would say my family. I have an amazing family. Everything I do is for my family. And so my family is like you said, they're a great support system, and we're very family oriented. Number 2 on my list would be God, because again, Jesus is central in our household and has been forever. And we live that way. And that's a way of life. And then third, like you said, I'm grateful for the people who choose to watch my stuff. I mean, when I started this journey, I never thought I'd have the subs that I do right now. I never thought I would have the support that I have right now. And they've been very generous through the issues with my dog and everything as well. I've never asked my audience for anything, but they really stepped up with the issues with my dog. And so I'm very surprised at the support system that I do have. And it makes doing what I do worth it. It makes the time that I spend doing the content, gathering the information, worth my time. I have an amazing audience. And so I appreciate all of those things as well.
Definitely things worth being grateful for, man. Can't deny it in any way. I couldn't agree more with everything, man. Again, thank you so much for coming on, man. It means the world to me that you did. I watch your stuff all the time, so I absolutely love it. And if you want to talk about where people can find you, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, whatever, right now would be the time.
Yeah, you can either find me at Aaron Fischer, My Review, or My Review, Aaron Fischer. And so the best place is to connect with me on YouTube. I got to start putting the links for the other places. I'm actually on all the platforms, but I don't really update Instagram. But I am definitely active on Twitter, and I'm active on YouTube. So it is My Review, Aaron Fischer. So they can find me by looking for that.
Right on, man. Thank you so much for coming on. I've had an absolute blast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Not a problem, man. Maybe we can get you on again at some point in the future if you're willing to come back on after James Gunn's universe begins, man.
Yeah,
talk about whether it's bombed or whether it's done great.
Yeah, and I'll admit it if it's good too. I absolutely will.
That's one thing you have said, man. You tell the truth. You tell exactly what you're thinking. You don't lie about anything, and I appreciate the hell out of that, man. Nope. Well, have a great rest of your day, buddy. I can't wait to talk to you again.
You too. Take care.
Come join the fun.